As we have been discussing EPIC and its various dimensions in this course, today we are going to, we have in fact a scholar, Professor Olivier Arifon, who is basically a scholar of communication studies and of various types of communication managements. He has been a trainer of diplomats of these ASEAN countries also. So with this background, he works on EPIC with a different point of view, because in communication and across the globe, whenever we are engaged in communication, we keep in some or the other way talking about some aspects of EPICs. Okay. So we are going to look at this aspect of EPIC, and Professor Olivier Arifon, he is even now tired. He has traveled from Belgium directly yesterday, and he missed his flight also due to some delays. So, but with all that, we will have a long session with him today, about 2.5 hours, with a break in between. So, Sir Professor Olivier Arifon, you are most welcome here. We have a small token for you from the university, okay, which our students will give. Our Jack, who is going to present you another tradition of India from Assam.
From Assam?
From Assam. This is a traditional gamsa of
like
Assam.
Like a kata?
So again,
like the Tibetan kata?
Yes, something like that. But this tradition is typical to Assam.
Okay.
The gamosa is typical to Assam. So you are most welcome in our university, sir. With this, now I request you to kindly start your lectures.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, dear Sushan, dear colleague. I'm very happy to be here for the second year to deliver or speak in front of you, especially on my key topics, which are epic, storytelling, narrative. And I have a second great pleasure. Hello. Second great pleasure is to be in front of Asia. I am traveling through Asia since 30 years now, and you represent half of the Asian countries here, more or less. And it's a pleasure to be gifted, like here, like in Assam, to have you representing Asia and some gifts from Asia, because this is my passion, and I will keep my energy until as much as I can to discover many countries, including Asia. I am here from this is my 30 trips, 30 in India, and second year in front of you. If you don't mind, I will not speak with that. I'm not yet accustomed to the heat, because I arrive in a place where the degree is 8, with a lot of water in the sky. And today I will be more stable, but I'm still in a jet lag, which is totally normal. But nevertheless, it's possible to teach with a professional manner, of course, and with a lot of welcome discussions. Hello. You may be from Indonesia or Malaysia. I'm not so bad for that. I can recognize most of the origin. Have been asked to travel to Indonesia this summer, so maybe we can discuss on that. Sorry, I never went to Argentina, but at least it gives another point of view. Well, so we have this time together. And I've been asked to deal with EPIC as a famous topic of Professor Sushant. And I have another definition that I will introduce, and you are free to discuss, to ask any questions. And if we succeed to have some discussions, it's a proof of that the content is really going on. If you are curious about my whole life or a part of my life, this is a website which describes most of my activities, writing, consulting, and teaching with diploma on communication and on narratives. I know that you have already seen some other colleagues from France, and maybe it's another French, no? It's another French point of view with a French accent. It's how it goes. So the first session today is about Epic as a national identity in Korea in modern times. And we will not escape about K-pop. I'm sure that this whole generation is aware about what is K-pop. Hello? Indonesia too? Okay. So all of you is aware about K-pop. Is someone of you following one artist on his mobile phone? You are not following one K-pop. You are following one? Okay. You too? Okay. Your colleague from India? No. Bangladesh. Okay. Come. Bangladesh. You're a minority, huh? Okay. No one is a fan of a special K-pop band. No? Okay, but you have heard about K-pop. Maybe, what is your average age? Around 23?
Yes, 24.
24? 27? Yeah, you're a bit older for K-pop. And for you? 27, yes. It's a little bit. K-pop is more popular actually around the age of 20. And my students, I'm mostly teaching in AMA, and my students are around 21, 22, and it's an average age. And among the fans of K-pop, almost 80% are female. But it's not the point for that. Well, so I go. Yes. And of course, you know what is an epic, but I already put the definition for me. Epic is a long poem or a story, thank you, or an event or series of events reminiscent of those of an epic. It's a definition of my favorite online dictionary. Of course, you know the content of what is an epic because you are on this point from one semester. But I like to start with a short definition. And in a way, I'm doing my research on modern day epic, and with a very nice synchrony, I have finished a book with a chapter on that. And then I have the pleasure to deliver you some findings on what is epic. From epic to diplomacy, which is more intriguing. Epic to diplomacy, I'm a specialist of public diplomacy, so how states communicate. So the communication of India, the communication of Thailand, the communication of Bhutan, even in Bhutan there is a communication of state, Bangladesh too, because I have the pleasure to go, not to be proud of myself, but I have the pleasure to attend many public diplomacy events in Brussels where I live. And I don't go to some countries which are not interesting me, but I go to all the events organized by some of your countries. So I rarely one of India, rarely, I don't know why. But Bangladesh is very active, and even Bhutan they have an embassy there, and they do small stuff. So I have the pleasure to attend of this event and to look of the stories they are trying to tell us as a general audience, not me, but us. I went to one event, to Indonesian event, and for example, Sri Lanka, even they organize some very small events to promote their country in Brussels and to the big audience. And this is my topic. So I want you to understand the key point of my lecture already, which I repeat, is that each country tried to promote itself through economy, of course, but also through arguments, which is called public diplomacy, and in that room it becomes epic. You see? So there is maybe I can write on the blackboard, on the whiteboard. Here? No? Oh yeah, thank you. Let's do something like this, you know? Public diplomacy. So argument are not working anymore. It's dry. You've got another one. Thank you. Argument plus stories can be called modern day epic or can be labeled as an epic. Of course, it's connecting two different worlds. In Brussels, we will never say Indonesia or Bangladesh is holding an epic. It's not relevant. But it's just to make connect. My colleague, Professor Sushant and I, we connect two different worlds together. So for you, this is an opportunity to connect two different worlds together, exactly as the French teacher have done the same. The other teachers have done the same. So we can call this modern day epic. Of course, it's a big choice. Yeah. So that's why we're moving from epic to diplomacy. And it's the first time. Oh, it's not okay. Thank you. Please? Sorry. So it's the first time I connect these two words together. But it will function. Maybe we can write, yes?
By argument, you mean like rational ideas and story more emotional?
Both.
Or, because when you say that, I thought it's about narrative.
Yes, that's the same word. It's narrative. Yeah, narrative. Epic, storytelling, narrative. But argument could be rational or could be emotional. For example, there was an event at Brussels organized by Sri Lanka, and it was promoting tea. So promoting tea is to sell more tea. But you can say rational because they want to sell tea bags, but they also promote some aspect of their culture within that framework.
So in that sense, there's also some poetic idea. It's connected with the type of language? Or?
Yes, no, not type of language. It's connected with the choice of the country to develop some arguments. I will go deeper into that. I make in front of them the 4 lectures. Okay, so we have 4 lectures together, 1 each day. So we will come back later and later. I don't share all the ID now. So other words, similar ID, a tale, a novel, a story, a jest, a fabulation. It's for me to grab into that topic. You know this, I'm sure, already because it has been told here. And in today's world, issued from marketing, PR, public relation and communication, which is my field, could be called narrative, storytelling, soft power, or public diplomacy. Yes, thank you. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So it could be called narrative, storytelling, soft power, and public diplomacy, which is my field, my research field, my consultant field. Everything is I do that. So we connect today these two words. Of course, you're maybe not a specialist of these four words. So you know this one, of course. You know this one too, because it's... have you heard about soft power? Everyone heard about soft power? Okay, so now it's a thing that this concept is popular all over the world among generations. Have you heard about public diplomacy? Yes, also. Okay. So you know what the content is. Different aspect of public. I have a special definition of public diplomacy, which is when the states put some money to develop an event or to develop a policy. Like the example I have in mind, but once again in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka rent a room in Brussels. They deliver some invitation. They put some money to promote tea. But tea is not produced by the state. It's produced by private actors. So in that case, it becomes an aspect of soft power or public diplomacy. And we've got 6 different dimensions. The first one is business diplomacy. Once again, Sri Lanka wants to sell tea. It could be called business. It could be called business diplomacy. It's also more complicated than that. Ask any question you want. It could be called cultural diplomacy. So we organize a tour of one band, and there is a traditional dance from India in Brussels. In that case, it's called cultural diplomacy. It's not a surprise. Then academic diplomacy. So we are coming from one university, you are hosted there, under the support of the government of India. So it's academic diplomacy. Or I am teaching for 1 month in here, it's academic diplomacy. So no surprise from students and teachers, yes. Gastro diplomacy, which is a more, gastronomy, food. So it was, we can speak for hours about food because everyone is a fan of food, from Argentina beef the rice in, I don't know, I don't remember the name of the traditional dish in nasi goreng. Voilà. So gastronomy, I have a special chapter on that because we are no more with rational. Food is more emotional. And gastrodiplomacy, it has started with the French in 2010. I will discuss it later. But now almost all the countries have understood that they can promote some food. So there is a day, during the Yoga Day of India, even there is a booth, some booths to promote Indian food, and so on, and so on, and so on. So as far as I know, I never saw any example from Bangladesh, but Thailand is very famous for promoting its food abroad, supported by the government. And I've been told that almost 30% of the travelers are motivated by food. 30%, 1/3, even of the tourists. For some countries, I don't have any example, but we have a representative here from Thailand. You know, in France, in Europe, all the people say, "Oh, the food of Thailand is marvelous." So the reputation is when you go to Thailand or Vietnam, you are sure that you will find food which is suitable for foreigners and which will be tasty and which has a great success in the streets. Even we are used as Westerner in Western Europe, even in Eastern Europe now, to have local traditional Thailand food more than Indian food. And we never find any Indonesian stand except in the Netherlands. So food is becoming one complete topic. And this is an occasion to tell stories about blah, 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 blah. I will discuss four times in front of you. So now we can go to sports diplomacy. Of course, there is a lot of discussion because I'm not totally aligned with my colleagues. Because if we take football, it's 100% private. If we in June we will have the European football cup. It's 100% private by the federation, blah blah blah. Cricket here is 100% private. So it could be supported a little bit by the state or the government, but it's mostly private. There is an exception this year in my hometown, Paris, about the Olympic Games. So of course you will hear about France, you will see France on the screens because sportsmen and sportswomen from your countries are challenging at the Olympic Games. But it could be discussed, it's really diplomacy because it's only one shot. You know, the precedent event for the Olympic Games in France was in 1924, 100 years ago. So it's so broad. It's a long time. So it's only one event. Even if India or I don't know, Indonesia don't play. I don't think that Indonesia plays cricket, right? Cricket? No. Huh? Bangladesh, of course. So Bangladesh and India, there is a World Cup of cricket. It's hosted by one country, but it's not so regular.
What about players?
What about players?
Are players not part of, like, for example, Messi or Sachin Tendulkar? You see the
Yeah, Messi for football or some very famous cricket players. Yeah, it's called, this is a subcategory which is called a star, using star to promote something. So in that case, the government may ask a star to become a kind of ambassador. But it's delicate because the men or the women become embedded with the governmental values. So he has to negotiate his own freedom, but it depends. We have an internet connection here, of course. I have an incredible video on Roger Federer. You know this tennis player promoting Switzerland. And this movie is a perfect storytelling. It could be an epic because they're playing on cliches too. So we will see that, but it's rare and it's delicate for the football play for the person to be on that.
One example, maybe can we consider discourse diplomacy because India and Pakistan, when they had a special relationship, and it was tough at that point of time. So the then president of Pakistan, he visited India to the event where Indian and Pakistani cricket teams were playing. So now the president of the other country comes and visits to a sports event. Obviously, the entire diplomacy and the entire state gets closer. So this is one example that time the President Ziaul Haq had made this decision to visit India.
Yeah.
Just to watch one day.
Alors, there is the first documented sports diplomacy event is 1972 with ping pong. We start like this, ping pong? Between Russia and the US. No, between China and the US. Because they first start to speak together, China and the US, in 1972 by the match of ping pong. And then it becomes more political. And then we have, which is a new line for me, and I will try to grab into that a little bit, religious diplomacy. I want to make an article on that subject. I will be happy to have some insight from you because I have discovered, so I am passionate by the religion of the region. I have discovered that many countries here are promoting one or several religions abroad by some, let's say, council organization. So India is doing so, Sri Lanka is doing so, maybe Thailand too, Indonesia, I don't know. But some countries are promoting religion, which is not the case of Europe, because Europe is considered as a secular region. We will discuss that later. Yeah? Okay, that's how we can have the general framework. No. So, implementing public diplomacy. Public diplomacy is not like this. It's not just as a surprise or as a hazard. It's a strategy. That's why it's an organized event. It's a strategy. So here it's more oriented towards management. Maybe my colleague speaks about that. How to manage a policy. There is a 5 moments. There should be an agenda. It should be planned during the year or during 5 years. Yeah. There should have some objectives, and we will see the key about why K-pop is a success. Because there is objective. Because the government says, okay, we have a plan, and we will put money, and we have an agenda. So in that case, objective, setting the goal, showing that MFA cares about them. That's why most countries like about that. What is the public diplomacy of Indonesia, at least in Europe? I don't know. It's not visible. So the country should decide different objectives connected towards different regions, because it's not the same way with your neighbors and with your far counterparts. Resources, which mean money, staff, and structure, because it doesn't appear like this. Then the screen is breathing. Look. Public action, the most difficult to do with the distribution between agencies and actors. That's the most tricky question. It's not maybe relevant with them for here, but we are not in a management school. But public action, it seems the coordination between different agencies and different actors within the country. You understand that? I mean, the MFA, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but with some private units, some private producer, some academia, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. I have seen a very interesting example from Bangladesh in Belgium. I can describe it later to show how it's articulated different actors. Because if just the embassy do something in Brussels, in Paris, or in London, sometimes it reaches 20%, which is a lot of money for nothing. Evaluation, the difficulty, how to evaluate. So you students are evaluated. I am evaluated, but how can we evaluate public diplomacy operations and the way our mind are changing our position about one country? That's the most difficult, because it's connected with psychology or cognition. So maybe I'm speaking too fast for you to take notes. No, that's okay. Okay. The notes that please. The number 5 is the most difficult side. This is the actual challenge. A state put money, but for which reasons? If Sri Lanka do an event in Brussels to promote tea with 20% in a room, you have to calculate how much money, how much amount of tea you will sell, or not only by sellings, but also by the perception of the country. And Perception of a country is connected with cognitions. Cognitions say, how do we learn? And it's grounded on values, on our culture, because we are here, maybe 10 to 15 different cultures, so different approach of the world. So how do we receive messages? I am a French. In front of you, here in India, you may have different approach of reception, of considering my words, because I'm speaking with my culture. And I totally assume to be a European citizen. Totally. So I assume to speak with European framework, which is the first one is to be secular. This is one of the first important basic elements in Europe. So evaluation is very, very complicated. And it's a very interesting challenge, because one story can be told in a very interesting manner. If the audience don't care, it's useless. So it could be, in that case, considered as wasting money, wasting time, wasting energy. Alors, some countries don't care about diplomacy. Someone who is not in the room, we can say one country doesn't care at all about public diplomacy, North Korea. Doesn't care at all about public diplomacy. North Korea don't care about its own image. It cares only on his regime and his own interests. This is the most obvious case, without any contestation. If I take some other country, we say, oh, no. Okay. Alors, next slide. It's all still the introduction, and after that we will go into the case. So, the key word with public diplomacy and soft power is the word influence. And epic can be also, now epic is not considered as an influence. But reading an epic or discussing about epic could be connected with this idea. For what reasons does the state want to influence actors? I'm sure you already heard about Joseph Nye. No? Ah, no. Joseph Nye is a retired now a political scientist, American political scientist, and is the founder of the concept of soft power. 1990, just after the Cold War. So my students normally know that, but that's normal. That this is not your word of reference. So Joseph Nye, an American political scientist, is the founder of the concept of soft power. So, and he has written thousands of books, thousands of articles about for what reason does the state want to influence others. After the end of the Cold War, 1991, 1890, and the fall of the Wall of Berlin, this guy understands that we were entering into a new era. And then he has made a lot of research coining the term soft power, which now became a little bit, it's still used by the media, as you have noticed, but it's more and more blurred by different elements. Ambiguous term? Yes, we can say so. Yeah, we can say so. Ambiguous term, not ambiguous. I like to say that it's a concept which is like sand. Yeah. So it goes into your hand like this. You have a problem to grasp it. But if we go back to the basic activities of diplomatic and storytelling by MFA, the country represented in that room do their job in Brussels. without asking any question. They do the job, they ask questions, they don't know how to evaluate, but they do it. You see what I mean? And even some controversy, I don't know here if it's controversial, but in French it's quite controversial. Azerbaijan is a little bit controversial for the French now. And even Azerbaijan is doing some public diplomacy activities in Brussels. So, power of attractions and its transformation into a political process where the transmitter gets political support. So I like to say that soft power is a power of attraction. I am attracted by one country. To put into that room some of my personal life, I am attracted by Asia since 94. How many years? 40 years. Huh? Yeah, 24, 94, 30 years. 40 years. I'm attracted by, 41. I am attracted by Asia since 41 years. I first started by China, then I was invited by some friends to go to India. And since then I am attracted by India. So that's what I mean, to be attracted by one country. And the country tried to improve this attraction for tourism, for business, for image, to gain allies, and for to be well perceived abroad. It's a challenge at the world level to be well perceived abroad, except the case of North Korea. So it's based on the recognized legitimacy, more broadly on trust, image, and reputation. So we trust countries. I'm not sure that someone trusts North Korea, except actually Russia, which is doing trade arms for that. But on the world level, no one trusts North Korea except Russia and China. Huh? So we go into geopolitical issue, but it's connected with that. I mean, I have another image which pop up. We, as a public, so each individual can be considered as a public. And here, it's a geopolitical level. And what Nai has quite understood, that is the two are connected. The image is connected at the world level to be a trusted partner. We can say so from the Indian government. It's a trusted partner. But also that it's not enough to stay at the political level among just the leaders. The leaders are not enough anymore. We as an audience are taken into account by the different governments. That's why they will do some storytelling and connected to Epic again. Huh? And we as a public, we are now more or less targeted by different audiences. Maybe the goal of Nalanda University is to be famous at the Great Asia surrounding. So maybe they do some promotion to attract you here. Then you change your image on India. So it's already a part of that component. And we are far away from the global leaders. We are not speaking directly to Mr. Modi, to Mr. Macron, or to Mr. Sheikh Hasina. Huh? Mrs., of course. Mrs. So you see, disconnect the world level with the globe. We are not here in a lecture of geopolitical communication. So we can stay humbly at the individual level. if you accept that word imported from marketing as a target. We are not a target to be killed, of course, but we are a target to be
Consumer.
as a consumer, absolutely. As a target, as a consumer. States care, and 99% of the states care about that. All of the states in that room cares about the image they have themselves abroad. That's why it's so passionate. It's a passion for me, and it's a never-ending story, and there is a lot of case studies which are possible. Because each state has different resources and told different stories to the audience. Let's go now to the case. We'll make a break at 11:30? Yes. Okay. So, yeah, maybe we can have a small video, which is already a challenge as a teacher. So, 2.4 million views, 7.89 million subscribers of this band. Frankly speaking, I don't know this band. I'm just doing some research while preparing it. It's a very, very famous K-pop band. Maybe you know him or her. Let's go to see if it works. No. Do we have already the same problem? Because the screen here and the screen, I'm not connected to internet. Nalanda University? So I am connected. I am connected here, but there is always a problem. There is always a problem between that screen and that screen. How can we do? Would you help me for that? You see what I mean? A lot of comments. It's in French. Sorry. So there's always the same problem between this screen and that screen. Always. So there is wait, there is a solution. There is a solution. There is a solution. Wait, sir. No. No, I have this. Ah, yes, I can copy it. Okay. Let's do like this. Yeah, you're right. Let's do like this. One day, maybe after 10 years of research, I will succeed. It never works anywhere with the Mac and the screen. I don't know how the colleagues, how do they do? No, it doesn't go. I do. Always, always, always. So yeah, it's working. Not according to. Not according to. So I have chosen that band, which is called. Do you know this band called Black Swan? Who heard about it? No. Because I've chosen it because there is some, it's quite interesting. So let's have a small look. Wait, yeah. Now, why did I choose this after? Everywhere in the world, it's complicated. Allez. We are in India. No problem. For digestion. So you know this image, of course, these colors, these dances. Why do I choose this one? Why do I choose this band? You're right. Absolutely. K-pop starts with people from South Korea. And now they create bands from people which are not Korean to make more, to export it better. So I choose this band because maybe this one is from the West. She could be from the West, and I don't know the other ones because I don't go into detail. So it's quite interesting. And in Belgium, where I live, but I'm not Belgian citizen, there is a band which is famous. Because of what? Because one of the ladies of the band is from Belgium. So it gains more attention by the media. Of course, I didn't go into details of K-pop. It's not my world. But I get the information about that band because this lady was from Belgium origin. So they do the same with that. And maybe they try to get one Bangladeshi or Indian dancer. Huh?
There's one band, Korean band, which became famous in 3 months because they took an Indian girl.
Can you write me the name here?
I know the artist. Her name is X.
Thank you for my research. So we got it. One band became famous in India because of that. So what is that? It's public diplomacy. It's marketing without any problem. It's dedicated to the general public, and it's framed by the government. We got it. And they try to tell a story. I will go into detail at the end of the lecture, which story is being told, and why is it so successful through the world. So the lines, all the boxes are correct. They do some marketing, they do a mixed band, they reach global audience, and even localized audience, like Indian audience, which 1.5 million, it's a good market. And this function. And they try. It has been told that there is some argument within the K-pop song. We will discuss about it. We go back. Sorry. This is something here. A homeless tile. Thank you. Well, so I choose that band for that. Let's go to the next slide. South Korea. So here, on the title here, I quote the official discourses of the government. I copy and paste from their website. South Korea is a global central nation contributing to freedom, peace, and prosperity. This is let's say, a slogan or an umbrella. Yeah, to choose we can say in marketing global positioning. Alors, frankly speaking, No country will say, we are contributing to war and prison and suppression. Yes, no one country will tell that. Even Russia says we are contributing to peace. So we've got some something AC. So they came into the room to do the job. Okay. So of course this is it's a global framework, but we may have some more. We may have some more. Sorry, I'm a little bit disturbed. It's a global framework. We may have some more precise elements, and the challenge is to put it into reality. To put it into reality. Alors, frankly speaking, it's more easier when the country is small than the country is big. France or India or the US, it's complicated to have a discourse which is totally organized from every dimension. Maybe Argentina too, because it's already a small, it's a big country, not so big. It's how many millions? 24? 40? 44, so a medium-sized country, but you have your big neighbor. Yeah, of course. But we have also the shadow of Brazil, more or less. Saying from my perspective. So here, I quote the first master plan and the second master plan. It means that the government has a master plan. Frankly speaking, I don't know if your respective country has a master plan.
As far as India is concerned, I think
We may discuss for hours. We may discuss for hours.
I think everyone has, but it's a very challenging and complex world. So I don't know if it translates into the real world action.
I don't know if I am recorded. I don't know if I can say so, but the public diplomacy of India, for me, it's not readable.
Yes, that's
Okay. Alors, the goal. We describe strengthen public policy diplomacy, contributing to the realization of global values such as democracy, peace, human rights, and the environment. It's not a surprise, but at least they write it, and they try to deliver some elements. They write it. But enhancing digital public diplomacy, which is considering that digital is important, including metaverse and AR, which is a trendy topic, and expanding the scope of knowledge public diplomacy from promoting the Korean languages and Korean studies to sharing science, technology, innovation system. So don't forget digital, they don't forget science and linguistics. They don't forget it. They're not only a tech nation. They're always considering that Korean studies is very important, and we will see the numbers. Maybe you have numbers. It will be very interesting to have numbers. We will see the numbers. Increasing private sector participation in public diplomacy, expanding the scope into climate change, science and technology, health, gender equality, human rights, and regional and international cooperation. We've got everything into one box, but at least we've got climate change, could not be avoided, which is more surprising for Asian countries. It's gender equality. Because, you know, gender in Asia, equality in Asia has a long way to go in your respective countries. Gender equality, gender balance, frankly speaking, in Europe is very well advanced. So it's important for such an Asian country to say, in a way, they say, we are close to global norms. We are close to European values. We are close to if you accept it, universal values.
I think both the hemisphere are in same position because now gender
Both?
both the hemisphere, the western and eastern, like the west world and the east world are in the same position because gender is no longer binary. It has become non-binary. You see?
Nice argument. Nice argument. Thank you for this comment of your generation. You're right. You're right. But there is still a long way to go.
Economically, yes, long way to go, but culturally and socially, I think both west and east are in same complexities. Which you see, if it's not so now, it will be a very big part of diplomatic discussion in coming years.
Okay. Why not? I agree. You will be working in some years. You will be in power in some years, and we will be retired in some years. So it's your turn. Yeah, that's true. This is a reality. So you can be an actor into that field because you will find jobs. And we have jobs already, my colleague and I. But some countries are fighting against some values here. I have an incredible video promoted by Russia after the invasion of Ukraine in March 2022. And they say loudly in the world, no cancel culture in that video. So they are proud to fight against gender balance and so on. They claim it. So here it's a case of South Korea. One country is going that way in the East Asia also is Taiwan. Very popular for that, very popular. And they try to emphasize on they try to tell a different story than the Chinese model. We don't have any Chinese student here. It's possible here to have Chinese students? But it's possible. There is no limitation. So no Chinese issue. Okay. Look at this. This is the copy for the official print screen. Okay, it's not very easy to read. I think so. You know what? It's incredible. The students here are not on their smartphone by typing their messages. Because in my country, every 5 minutes, here you are concentrated, that's fine. So it's not very easy to read, but it comes from the official website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of South Korea. It's transparent. Goal: strategic policy and advocacy in our national interest. Advocacy. Promote our own interest. Normal. Korea position as a powerhouse for science, culture, technology, and culture. Okay. Digital innovative ecosystem for public diplomacy. They have 3 objectives. It's written down, and they put money into that. Resources, money. Some of your country don't do that. Don't do such activities so big framework, such a very clear, organized framework. It's more loosely organized. Of course, if there were, they don't have to do an evaluation after my lecture, but we could have done an evaluation or a case study. Go into your website. I do that bracket. I teach in a school like this in Berlin, and there is in front of me 40 people with 20 different nationalities, 20 to 30 different countries. So ask them to monitor the public diplomacy activity of their own country, because they have the knowledge. Of course, we go faster and you read the language. Indeed, you read the language of Bengali. Okay, you read the Spanish. So you go deeper into your country, and they have to do case studies about the public diplomacy of their own country. So it's very interesting for me to read and for them to get, oh, yeah, my own country is doing that. But there is no evaluation after my lecture. We can discuss about it. Well, what do we have? Yeah, look at that. Yes? No? Enhance nation brand as one contributes to global value. Nation branding. I forgot that word. You know that word, nation branding? I disagree with that content because it's too marketing oriented, but it's labeling a country as a brand. So there is a very few examples because now it has disappeared, but India has made that 15 years ago or 10 years ago. It's incredible India. But it was reducing the country as one slogan, which is quite dangerous. Amazing India or amazing Thailand.
Incredible India, but under Incredible India there were many states like multiplicity. For example, you see different Madhya Pradesh.
Yes, I know. But okay. Nation branding, you know, it's not so far from. It's once again trying to put with marketing arguments a story to the rest of the world. So we are very, very close. Huh? So here, global values for what? Hey, okay, South Korea. Oh, they are doing job. They are promoting human rights. They are a reliable partner. Reliable. Thank you. Reliable partner. They are committed to to peace or to avoid conflict, especially with their neighbors. So these are a credible partner. It means that we as a global audience, okay, I may go to South Korea. I never went, personally. But I may go because, it's a positive country. It's not dangerous, it's gender-friendly, we may find jobs, public transportation are convenient, blah, 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 blah. And we can discuss for hours according to your countries in such a way. This is the case for Thailand. You know, Thailand, if you take the first West Asian country for Westerners, Thailand. You know that, of course. Huh? Because they have the positive image, friendly country, good food, convenient, very framed into because of the US occupation. So this is the first image. If we say India, India, it's complicated. And if we say Bangladesh, sorry, where is Bangladesh?
Even Indian people feel complicated about India.
Hopefully you are here. Thank you for all your contribution. But this is also the charm of India.
That's what.
Yeah. Okay, here about culture, condition for Korean language education and Korean studies abroad. Korean language and Korean studies. Alors, Korean language, you know what it is. But what it is Korean studies? What is the content of that?
Korean culture, literature, history, suppose.
You've got all the answers, my friend. You've got all the answers. That's good. We need some students like this.
Nowadays in US, you see many department of literature that analyze Korea. Korea studies are very important nowadays. You know, they are changing from these last 10 years.
And because of what? How do you learn this information?
Because I just go to different universities to see the syllabus
Okay.
and the department. And nowadays, Korean studies are very in the first 4 or 5 studies.
Alors, what do you put behind Korean studies, and why is it a goal for the government?
You see, Korean studies, the Korea
Huh?
Yeah, as you say, K-pop, all the series, all the stories that came from Korea.
Okay, but here you put mostly a traditional angle from students, culture. But Korean studies could be broader than that.
Yeah, we to counter the Korean influence.
To counter the?
Korean influence, because every country wants to position itself, position its own culture over some.
Yeah.
For example, if India is day by day getting more Korean, government would want to understand what this is, and then pose counter kind of activities.
No, I don't reason. Well, okay, you have this framework about counter something, but I don't really agree. No, something broader than beyond literature and culture, beyond literature and K-pop. What? No, because you don't. Korean studies is not something about technology.
Understand the mechanism
Of?
narrative.
No.
Popularity.
Something more political.
Understanding the mind of.
And no, I invite you to go beyond only K-pop and literature. This is your framework. This is normal. But I encourage you to go beyond and to put something more political. Korean studies include a part of political sciences, which means I understand a bit better the political system of Korea, the history of Korea, the culture of Korea, and then I have not only a cultural image, but also a political image. In that case, I say, oh yes, I like this culture, and it's a political friendly. You know?
To create a kind of idea of Korea which can help in diplomacy.
Yeah. I just quote an example. Maybe it's time for the break. Yes, 10 minutes. If you don't mind, I finish my example and do the break because this is exactly the division between another chapter. I quote an example. In another presentation, I have a lecture about 24 hours on that topic. 24 hours. And in that lecture, I present an agreement signed between the best university in Belgium, which is called the Catholic University of Leuven, and the ICCR, International Council for Cultural Relations of India. And the ICCR of India support the salary to pay, the ICCR pay the salary of one Indian teacher to teach contemporary India in Leuven, in Flanders, in Belgium, in a master. So in that case, he's not only speaking about Mahabharata or yoga, but he's also explaining the contemporary Indian culture. Exactly if I was this year paid by my government to explain you the French actuality, French system, French culture, blah, blah. So of course, you receive a very subtle knowledge of this country by a native one. So India has supported a chair for 6 months in Leuven. It was before the COVID. I don't know if it's still existing, but that's a way to promote Indian culture and here Korean studies. And this is, we have a similar process by the European Union. We support European studies abroad. It could be here, it could be at JNU, it could be at somewhere else, I don't know, but it could be somewhere. In that case, it's public diplomacy because this man is paid by the government and is a teacher delivering insightful knowledge on this country. Exactly, imagine yourself, I am here for, let's say, 1 month. I am speaking for 24 hours. I think it's the size of a module, right? And I'm speaking for 24 hours of French actual society. In that case, you have a better, I can answer to many questions about France because I'm a French citizen. So this is a way to promote Korean studies abroad. Okay. So here we've got another. We take another one. This is why quite tricky. Improve public-private partnerships among local governments, Korean expat abroad, and businesses. So this is a micro-targeting. They choose local governments, which is not anymore the capital, but also the region, or here we've got the states. So they may cooperate with, here the Bihar, government of Bihar, which is not Delhi federal. And Korean expat abroad, it's complicated because it's to animate the network, and businesses is to organize local events to gain more attraction. So by pointing this, for here we've got businesses and experts, but for here we've got the students and the languages, and by here we've got political value. Once again, we've got this one, we've got this one, and we've got academic, literature, and case studies. We've got a third target. So they target the political global level, they target different academic cultural level, and they target the general public. They don't forget anyone. From 16 years old fan of K-pop to the politicians and the global leaders. They don't. So that's why it's so clear, visible, readable, free to download online, transparent, which is a high value today to be transparent, close to many European countries, which publishes their strategy online. You can find it. So they check all the boxes. That's why it's a very impressive and efficient case. And they do that since 2010, since more than 10 years. So now they're taking the results. They are harvesting. And it's incredible how we see, after the break, how the results are here. But it takes 10 years, which is logic. It does, public diplomacy is not, we do a cricket football championship, we go public Olympic Games, and for 10 years our country will be beloved. No, it doesn't go like this. That's why, once again, I insist, it's important to connect with the same patterns of epics, long stories with a lot of argument totally articulated between them. Of course, epics come from it's a little bit mythical. It's a little bit epopee. So the never-ending, based in ancient ages. But we can create an image with a link to see how it's articulated together here. You see? Now, I propose to do the break here, and because we go more on descriptive items after that to see the success. Frankly speaking, it's a success. Just bracket, I have made a similar case studies for 10 years on China. I will discuss it not in details, but on the next element. And China, soft power public diplomacy is a failure. And Indian public diplomacy is non-existing. So it's not a success or not a failure, it's not existing. And I assume, to say it in that room, to be watched on TV, that, frankly speaking, it's not visible. And it's still for me, you see, to came 30 times, I like this country, it's still for me a question mark. And of course, to concern you, you have Bhutan, very small country, quite close on itself. There is a small public diplomacy which is visible in Brussels. they choose something that we'll discuss later, very subtle, at exactly the good level for the size of their country. So we see every country can be a case, which is so that's why it's so. And every country could be a lecturer for 2 hours or a lecturer for 10 hours like this. What are the stories? What are the arguments? We will see that. We will see that into details according to how long is a break. But it's a rule.
Normally 5 minutes we say, but close to 10 minutes.
The habit in France is 10 minutes. And marker. Oh, a new student.
Yes, sir. I have just completed my class and I joined.
But you were here last year.
Yes, yes.
I recognize you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you again.
Yeah.
You're also from Indonesia?
Right.
Yeah, I recognize you. So I've been asked about political diplomacy, and it's a good precision to detail, to give. So in diplomacy. Diplomacy is a way states interact together. So it exists since states or since even kingdoms and queens and kings, kingdoms. Diplomats exist since the beginning of civilizations. The organized diplomacy exists since the 16th century with the very emerging Ministry of Foreign Affairs, at least in France, and the first in Europe was the diplomacy network from Venice. Because Venice was a small state, a small city, and they needed to bargain with all their neighbors. And then it became the organized diplomatic system with the MFA in the 19th century all over the world. I call it traditional diplomacy. Why do I call it traditional diplomacy, like my colleagues? Not political diplomacy, because traditional diplomacy is when diplomats speak to diplomats only. So they gather together, they exchange cards, knowledge, and project. But they don't discuss with the different audience outside. So traditional or diplomacy exists since states. Modern diplomacy exists since 1950. And public diplomacy exists since also 1950 with the first attempt by the US to promote its image abroad. So, but to distinguish between we are diplomats, we are gathering together, we exchange cards and projects, and public diplomacy, which was totally changed by the introduction of digital. And to reach this target, which is now more and more important, means us. We as the public. So that's why there is, for me, if you say, okay, G20, to promote India, if we say G20, it's a traditional diplomacy event, it's a political diplomacy event, which is now also used by state to promote its image outside to general audience. So these two are intertwined, are interlinked together. But normally diplomacy is when state speaks to diplomats. As it is the case in Delhi, we don't know what the diplomats of our respective countries here are doing, but they are meeting together. And sometimes they came into a room to deliver a class in front of students. You have a question? No? Oh, okay. That's okay for to make some precision, some details. Diplomats speaks to diplomat equals diplomacy. Diplomats speak to the rest of the audience, different kind of audience through different channels. I label it public diplomacy. Like it's an academic approach.
taking into consideration the past of China and India, because there were several kind of systems of diplomacy that we even find in today. For example, academic diplomacy, if we look at it.
The
Academic diplomacy.
academic diplomacy?
It was there in India and China, where the scholars used to be kind of,
At which period do you see?
From ancient, I think from Takshashila and Nalanda period, like if I
Yeah, okay. I'm not a fan of regarding the history to reframe it with modern concept.
Because why I'm saying, because you see, the history is somewhere in the consciousness of people, and we have to understand the modern people. We have to understand how their diplomatic history was.
Okay, but I prefer to use use history. It was historic times.
It was completely.
I don't label the exchange between China and India through Buddhism at Nalanda period as a diplomatic approach.
No, I'm not talking about China and India. I'm talking about within China and within India. There were many institutions and within many states, for example, Cholas and all these things, where they used to exchange scholars of various fields of medicine and this and that, even in China, where they used to have a good system of diplomacy. I'm not talking about with China and with Russia.
Okay.
I'm talking about intra-culture.
I prefer to say it's history, because it's history.
Actually, we are slightly discussing about what is the concept of diplomacy itself. See, the free movement of scholars from one place to the other place, whether encouraged by a state or otherwise, may not be part of diplomacy. So diplomacy, the term itself comes under certain conditions. So we have to understand the definition of diplomacy. If we apply that, then we can see what all happens.
So diplomacy can only be understood in terms of modern state.
So far as we know,
I prefer to see that in terms of modern states from the 18th or 19th century. I prefer to use that. And if I am a scholar traveling free to India, traveling free to Indonesia, not supported by my country, it's just because I'm a traveler first.
But then the question will come that what is the state? And that is very difficult to answer. Because in India, for example, the state is, you see, if you look at Korea, for example,
Yeah.
you see that expand favorable condition for Korean language. Now that cannot apply to India. Favorable condition for Indian language. The Indian languages have no favorable condition inside India itself. So you see, so I'm looking at the more
but
complex.
still you see, ICCR, our Indian Council of Cultural Relations, it sends teachers of certain languages abroad every year. And they stay in those countries, they teach those languages for 2 years. Okay, like just now it was said that there is an ICCR chair for teaching contemporary India abroad. Whatever be our notion, that we can debate, that whether the notion is good or not, whether the notion actually represents India or not, that we can debate. But this is a given political economic fact that the diplomacy, this use of the word comes in a certain situation.
We can speak, then we go into political science lecture, which is not so far from culture and diplomacy. So let's go into the case. Descriptive, the content and the reason of success of South Korea. I have, so South Korea soft power. What is that? It's a copy of the BrusselsKoreanCulture.org. It means that there is a Korean Cultural Center in Brussels, the capital of European Union. I don't know if there is one in Delhi. I think there is 24 cultural centers in the world. There is one in Berlin. And they, what do? They promote Korean culture. With what? Exhibition, manhwa and webtoon. So you know manga, so manhwa. Another exhibition, lecture with literature, so they don't forget literature. Korean information to study abroad. online websites for YouTube and blah blah, and of course K-pop classes. And they organize, so they cover all the field. From I may be more interested by that. I may buy a manhwa. I may read a book. I will not go there. But for this public, which is here, you see mostly young girls or young women, they don't forget. So they cover all the fields. Okay, it's not so broad. It's not so, but at least they have a Korean center. Like the French have Institut Français, and German have Goethe Institute, Chinese Cultural Confucius Institute, and all that stuff. So more concrete here. So Brussels, May 2021. I was there. This is the main square in Brussels, Place de Bruckner. And what do we see? A podium with a pansori, you know, and we see all of these are women from 18 to 20 years old. Some of them are wearing scarf. It means that they're coming from also some more popular area. And some of them I was there one day. Some of them with their parents. And of course, there was an entire day of event on the stage. But here we don't see all the stands. What was the stands? And we say stands or booths?
The stands.
What is a booth?
Booth is a caged kind of a structure where you go and buy something.
Ah, un guichet.
Guichet. Guichet is booth.
So stands. There were the stands with a list of all Korean restaurants in the country. So you can take a leaflet and you get all the Korean restaurants. Of course, you can have Korean food. There was a stand of Korean cutting paper. Yeah, for your young kids, you know, because we're on Sunday, so we go with the family. There was a stand of Korean beauty products for the women, with Korean products, ginger and blah blah and all that stuff. There was a stand of Korean food, Buddhist food. With there was a special nun which was coming from that event, and she has cooked Buddhist food, veg food with healthy products. So it was more for adults. There was a stand about manhwa, how to draw in a manhwa. So they don't forget anyone. So of course all the stands are free. The stands are managed by the private enterprises, but all the framework was organized by the Korean culture event. And I asked to the organizer, say, yeah, it's not so complicated. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It didn't appear for other years, 2002, 2022, but at least we have an example here in Brussels. So it's a real 2 days operation. Imagine the same in Delhi, maybe in Rajgir. I'm not sure if the target is available in Rajgir, but at least in Delhi, it's more urban culture, so it's possible. Or the big city, where is the nearest big city after Patna?
Delhi is more popular than.
We have more chance to attract more people in Delhi than in Rajgir or in Patna because of the cultural differences. So let's go to another element. Korean culinary classes, Spring 2024. So I may register in Brussels to cook, to learn how to cook Korean food. I will not do, but then I will do that. Oh, Korean food, I will go to the Korean grocery to buy Korean food. Then to develop my knowledge. Or then I can learn some language to go deeper into the culture. So I don't say everyone will be successful. I don't say everyone is for every activity is for every Every activity is for all the people, but I may choose and pick up different aspects of the culture. Then, I took this photo into the Brussels Korean Center. K-pop global fandom. I don't know how they have managed, but I think they have monitored all the Twitter, all the digital accounts in order to get a certain number of Korean, in order to evaluate. You see, I mentioned the word how to evaluate. So they gather it. You are here. I don't have the scale, but India is included. What is this country? No, Thailand is there. This is Myanmar. Bangladesh? Ah, this is Bangladesh. This is Bhutan. Bhutan is not included. So there is maybe no data available. We don't know. And Nepal is not included too. Of course here it's more difficult because it's Central Asia. But you see how it's given a general idea, even in Tunisia, which here, you know Tunisia? 10 million inhabitants. I've made a colleague which has made a research on the K-pop in Tunisia. And she was a researcher. She went to interview young ladies from Tunisia. Why do you like K-pop? The connection between K-pop and Tunisia is not so obvious. It's very far, two different cultures. So they succeed. Of course, they don't succeed very easily in Africa, but Africa, maybe lack of data, lack of connection, and blah, blah, blah. But at least they succeed in all the world, otherwise, except Africa, globally speaking. And look at that. Here. Alors, you don't know, you know Inalco? You know Inalco? You know Inalco now because you had a teacher. There is in 2020, there was 150 seats to learn Korean. There were 2,000 candidates. Wow. It's a big signal. It's a big, and when I mentioned that to my colleagues, when I did speaking about China's soft power, I say, how many students are now studying Chinese in Inalco? It's totally decreasing in the whole Europe and maybe in the whole world. Why young ones don't want to study Chinese, and why young ones wants to study Korean? Give me some answer, and not you, some other people. Why the young ones, 16 years old, wants to learn Korean instead of Chinese?
From general understanding, not only that language, also everything the young people want to learn because of the K-pop advertising.
Yeah, but maybe they also.
Very valid, but coming from a pure language teaching background, I have a different answer maybe. Because the companies of Korea are offering you jobs. So you get more jobs in Korean, whereas Chinese companies don't employ people from other countries. They try to employ their own people. So they are not giving you employment. However, the situation in India is different. And there is another reason for that. Because we Indians think, which is not wrong also, that if you learn Chinese, Korean you can easily learn. And people have learned. Many of my generation people who were in Chinese, they are now settled in Korea. Many of them, they are working very well in Korea. And they learn Korean on their own. So Korean and Japanese you can learn on your own if you have learned Chinese.
I think it's not the job, but it's the aesthetics of job. That because of K-pop and
in India.
no, not in India. Like why people
if you go to Inalco, it is very clearly related to the jobs being offered.
Yes, it is offered. But what I'm saying is the way they look at K-pop and K-dramas, they want that aesthetic in their life. Because I
Part-time what?
Part-time course of language where people from different walks of life, they come for this aesthetics.
You make a difference between part-time courses and long-time, full-time. You're right. It's a good distinction.
Full-time courses are directly driven by the job requirement. You are out.
Yeah.
After 3 years, you have a job. Like in India, if you say an engineer of the topmost institutions and a Korean graduate or a Chinese graduate, you compare the salary. The Chinese gets the highest even today.
No, that's what I think is the job that you mentioned. I'm saying the job is not because of the money, but because of the aesthetics of job.
The aesthetic.
Yes. You see, aesthetics of life and job.
Job is purely because, I tell you, for example, there is a new investment in India that is washing machines, public washing machines.
Yes.
It's new. It doesn't exist before.
No, in India it is a new investment that you can go to the marketplace,
Yeah.
you can wash your clothes.
Yeah, yeah.
And with the wash clothes,
But,
you can come back.
there was nothing like this before.
It was nothing like this before.
Oh, it exists since 40 years in Europe.
Yes. But
In Argentina
yes,
too.
but in Indian family system it did not exist.
Ah,
Even now there is not a huge market for this. But it is
that's
there.
European style.
So you see this, now you see which are the companies investing? Japanese and Chinese.
Can you imagine the number of washing machines?
So
Can-
in Delhi itself, in one big city, I'm not talking of Bangalore and other places, just Delhi itself offers you lots of job if you have learned little bit of Japanese, little bit of Korean.
But why are people going to those washing machines?
That is an Indian situation, that is a different issue. But there is a job in that.
Why they are going there is because I can say for young people like of my age, because there is an aesthetics of going there and washing there. You see, when you look at
Wait. I propose to argue with this guy called, it's not a Marvel guy, but what is your name?
Shivadi Mishra.
Your surname?
Shivadi
Shivadi.
Mishra.
Vishka. I propose to say, you use the word aesthetic. I propose to use the word attraction. Because in that case, I may understand his point of view, I may accept your point of view, because it's a little bit connected with the brand. Oh, I consume this thing because I have the value which are behind.
No, it is there, but it is not there in these kind of jobs which they are targeting for the simple reason. Suppose, I give you an example. If we have such brands also, but they open their outlets in malls. Whereas these outlets, they target urban villages, where we have lots of people, you don't have place to wash and dry clothes, you don't have time, people are working in a different rhythm, and that is the reason. So you see the target is completely different. What you say also exists, but that exists in the places where it will be fashionable to go.
Yeah.
And there is a huge difference.
And important to mention also the distinction between full-time language classes and part-time, which is more as a fan. And I can come back to my own story. I was maybe 20 years old or 25, and I went to it was time of videotapes. And I was trying to learn Japanese. I didn't want to work in Japan, but I was already attracted by Japan because of martial arts, and I said, oh, I want to go deeper. And it was exactly the same level of commitment. And so the students here, we don't know, but in ALCO, it's half-half. In ALCO is this university, and in ALCO could be half for the culture. The motivation of students could be half for culture and half for business. Because if you want 100% business, you don't go to INALCO, you go to ESSEC, if you have the money. Okay, so a nice debate about...
But ESSEC does not offer language classes. That is
I didn't know, but it was trying to make a joke and a connection. But my dream would be to teach in INALCO, because to be in contact, INALCO is teaching 180 languages, different languages, and it exists since 1783 or something like that. So more.
Maybe young people take just online course.
No, but our first professor was from Iran.
Yes, I know.
Second was from SA.
And the third is from?
Brussels. European Parliament.
No one knows, even me. Well, to learn Korean, 213 institutes in 73 countries. So exactly as the French, the German, the Spanish, the Chinese, and the, Goethe Institute, Confucius Institute, Institut Français, Instituto Cervantes, and then Korean. Big networks if you want to learn Chinese. Then there is this is a small information, but it shows. You know what is Hallyu? It's a Korean wave. It's a way to label it from 10 years ago. Hallyu is a Korean name for Korean wave. There is a Hallyu section in the Ministry of Tourism. You see how they are clever? In the Ministry of Tourism, to gain tourists, there is a guy which is paid, maybe with a team, to work only on that. So it shows the commitment and the organization of the country. Do we have a do we have a yoga section or Hindi section in the Ministry of Tourism?
No, we do have in many countries, the Indians, we do have a man from tourism section.
Yes. No, I mean a special section in your MFA or in your tourism to try to promote it abroad.
No, NFA does not have. Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Tourism, but it does not.
We have yoga, but that comes under other ministries. We have tourism, which is another ministry. Tourism as part of, you see here, Ministry of Tourism as part of Foreign Affairs.
No, as part of foreign affairs.
So now we go to the next slide. This is it was mid-September last year with a temperature like this in Brussels, which is very rare. And we are in a huge garden, almost a forest. It's a private residence of the ambassador of Korea for the National Day. I had a chance to be there, and you see the flag. So this is the ambassador delivering a speech. The flag, then Belgium, then Europe, then NATO, and then Luxembourg, because there's also accreditation in Luxembourg. Okay, he made a traditional blah blah, a traditional speech for traditional diplomats and for, let's say, 400 guests. But they didn't forget to propose cars. There were cars in the park. There was food and beverages, like alcohol and all this special wine made by grain, with rice. Huh? Something like this. There was a stand for health and beauty products. And I came back with a bag like this at the end of the day. So I came back with a bag at the end of the day when we leave the room, when we leave the place, and there was beauty products. It was more for my wife. So there is, and there was promotion for international exhibition at Busan. Busan is a city which wants to host the international exhibition in 2026, I think. They didn't forget anything. Everything was on the list. The car, the food, the beauty products, except one thing was not on the list, Buddhism. But as we are the secular area, the European Union, we don't have to deal with that. And for Europeans, it's totally logic. Because if you take Buddhism, you separate with the other ones. If you take cars or food, there is no separations. So I agree with that position. So into a traditional event for the National Day, everything was done into these 400 participants, which the job is perfectly done. The job is, so it means what? It means that from Seoul to Brussels or to Delhi, the instructions, the commitment, the strategy is managed from the bottom to the top. And that is a real way for me to evaluate public diplomacy, because we recognize the coherence between what's on the website of the MFA and what's the reality on the field. I give this exercise to the students. Maybe I can discuss for that. So now we got some facts, because I have the chance. I was on a conference of Korean culture in Paris, June 23, and so a colleague of mine delivered some data. I'm not a specialist of Korean won. I don't know how to translate it, but look at that. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, budget 32 millions of won. Korean Foundation, you know Asia likes a foundation, 49 million of won. And Ministry of Tourism, 106 million of won. So they have the money, and they publish it online. You want a picture of that very... Okay. Why not? It means that the money is there. So we have the result, we have seen the result on the field, we have the result on the digital audience and digital, like the video of this BAM Black Swan, and then we have the data. And here, but this is the same, public diplomacy strategy to share Korean culture, to understand Korea, to gain support on Korean policy, to strengthen public diplomacy capacity to promote public-private partnerships. The objectives, the goals, the resources, staffs, activities on the field, and the strategy is there. Everything is interconnected, everything is readable, everything is transparent. This is a perfect case study. Yes?
It's not that much, because it would be around $70,000.
You make the calculation?
Yeah, because 105 million won would be 65 lakh rupees. That would be around $70,000. 70 to 80,000.
Only?
Yes, because one Korean won is 0.062 Indian rupees.
Okay. And?
And if I do it in dollar, then
We've got online.
75,589.
So you mean 100? Okay. Are you sure of the millions?
Yes, 105 and 6 zeros, right? Right? So yes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
You have to add 60 after that.
Yes, so I have added 60. It is 77,589 US dollars.
In that case, it's nothing. You're right.
That's
I never made the calculation, but well, what can we say? I don't know. At least we can say that there is a strategy. We already discussed on that. Huh?
No, the budget is fine. Actually, the model is public-private partnership. So most of the things they will get from the companies, enterprises.
Yes.
So this is the minimal budget.
So in that case, we find again Korean studies. We see Korean policy for foreign residents. We have the same idea of participatory public diplomacy framework. We also have the same idea of public-private partnership. So we find the two slides are very similar. I have to skip one because I said 2 times the same elements. Why is it, one question to the audience, please leave the rest of the audience participate. Why is it important to develop public-private partnership? Why is it important? there is two dimensions. Why is it so important to develop public and private partnership? Because of
Korean enterprise, Korean business
yes.
developing in other countries.
So that's a good answer. There is another reason. The first element is that private corporations need to develop their business, so they are ready to cooperate. That's normal. But the other reason is more from the public sector side. We may find 2 or 3 different reasons. The first one, enterprises want to do business. They can say, okay, we put some money. Okay. From the public side,
Movement of people.
They want to include, yeah, they want to include people in that grand narrative of Korean wave or something.
who?
The
They want to, the government want to include the private enterprise into that big framework?
big narrative of Korean.
Yeah, but normally they already are ready to, because they follow the trend to make more business.
Yes, qualitatively they are, but quantitatively they are not. They can check, okay, I have this thing. And,
Okay, yeah, it's a good argument. So there is 2 other arguments I have in mind. To reduce the cost. It's important to reduce the cost. But the last one is the most important for my eyes, for my brain. It's more subtle. It's more cognitive. It's more a reflect of your generation. We are too old for that. But at least we are ready to explain it. So the first one is okay. To include the corporation. Here also to reduce the cost. But what could be the third one, or the fourth one, or the next one, considering alors, I try to give you a clue. Okay, it's a little bit a shortcut. Or citizen. So this is a kind of clue. You may argue on that. Citizens or digital natives are reluctant to impose messages.
That is involvement of people. That's what I say.
Yeah, involvement of people.
Government comes and gives you the message you are not.
By the ground
So branding.
or by this.
If the government says, I have the best product in the world, say, oh, I don't care about the government, or politicians are corrupt, or I don't vote, or I'm only a taxpayer. So you may fight against, you may resist about a message coming imposed by government. And this kind is a kind of, not dilute, but to cross the messages. It's a public-private partnership. So it improves the possibility of us to receive the message, because it's not imposed. This is why there is a contradictory, this is my next article I have to finish once I am back from India, about authoritarian states and soft power. There is a contradiction. I have been asked to propose a chapter in a forthcoming book about authoritarian state and soft power. Where is the contradiction between authoritarian states and soft power?
People don't participate in the.
In what?
So authority, the state decides everything.
Yeah.
The soft power. It's not people are not represented in that soft power.
Alors, they are not represented, and also, if you are an artist in one authoritarian state, what is the problem? You are an artist, you are a painter, you are a writer, working.
Okay, so you cannot be free.
freedom to express yourself.
You don't have you may have restriction to express yourself.
Yes.
So this as an author, you are not promoted by the state to deliver a conference abroad,
Yeah. It's like China.
like China. So you face problem of authoritarian decision by the states. And as far as I know, there is no authoritarian state in that room. So the artists, the musicians, the scholars are free to express themselves with some different levels. But at least one message or one policy is not decided by the government. So here, the quality of that message, the quality of a soft power policy is that there is a cocktail which functions quite well, and it's rely on that. Citizens of today's world are not ready to face imposed messages from different sides, except if you live under a regime such as North Korea. Not to quote the other ones. Oh. Well, this slide is a little bit complex, but here there is a very interesting element. Here, establishing the creative milieu. It means that South Korea, aware that the creation maybe sometimes go down because they have no more new artists, they establish laws within Korea to support the creative sector. So they change the law for better social security, better employment rate, better trainings for artists. You know, it's sometimes difficult to be an artist. You don't have a social security, you don't have a job for money for every month. They change the law to have a better sector. It's very clever because they frame the next generation. Very clever. The French have done that for video. Video games. I'm sure you don't know that, but the second best producer after the US is France. Because 20 years ago, the French say, oh, we have some creativity, we will put money into corporations, we will put money into a national school of video games. We have a national school of video games. And 20 years later, France is the second biggest producer of video games. And video games is a bigger turnover than the movie. So it gives, on the world level, video games is very famous by the French touch. It's called the French touch. And South Korea and China try to do the same, to organize a similar ecosystem. The South Korea don't do something for video games, as far as I know, but they do something for all the creative milieu, which can be writers, dancers, musicians, and blah, blah, blah. So they think 10 years ahead, or maybe 20 years ahead. Well done. Well done. And despite the government change, which is very important, because if you move one day from left to right and 5 years later from right to left, if the government say, okay, we erase the document and we throw at the dustbin, everything is lost. No, because of national interest, the government, I don't like the word deep state because it's a populist argument, but the government maintained the line because they say, despite the government changes, we have to follow that line because it's for the national interest. It's the case in France. If the government changes, the policy of the foreign policy doesn't change a lot, at least the cultural aspect of foreign policy. Because if in France we have a right president is more oriented as the US, and we have the left president is more oriented towards European Union. But it has changed because now Europe is taking distance from the US, and for me it's a good news. And but it's a judgment. So at least the cultural approach, the diplomatic cultural network doesn't change its strategy if the government and even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs change. It goes like this because it takes years and years and years to implement. They do the same. Now, we come slowly to the conclusion. We finish at 1? Oh. Huh? But no, I don't have time enough. Okay, how to explain South Korean success? It's time for the wrap-up conclusion. There is 3 possibilities. I inspire myself from a Korean scholar, which is working in political economy. You know this field? First, he says cultural affinity. Okay, it works for you. Cultural affinity. You are from, except we together. You are from Asia, so you share Asian values. So you know how to say no, so you share Korean values. You may share values. Why not? It says China and Japan share Confucianism, memories, historical experience, linguistic affinity. Why not? Frankly speaking, I don't know what South Korea and Indonesia are sharing. But, okay, I agree, because we may say this is a global Asian market. Okay, why not? He said the second one, affective affinity. Fandom activity, sharing and developing actions and programs for the cultural production, whatever it could be. Okay, there is fan, and it is, we have pointed out that there is a lot of fan on Korean K-pop, and they are doing websites, and they are translating the languages into Dzongkha, and they are very active. But it's a limited group. They are fans. All of us are not fans, so we have to dip into that band to take hours and hours to promote BTS or Gigi or Black Swan. To be frank, it's a very narrow. And how do you connect? Of course, there is Asian Fair. I don't know if you have an Asian Fair here. There is in Brussels, Berlin, everywhere in the big capital in Europe, there is an Asian Fair, which is 5 days of Asia, usually in April. And mostly the young ones go there. I never went because it's not of my generation. And mostly you go there with the young ones and you buy goodies and a lot of stuff from Asia. It's, you know, you're attracted by this country. I have affection of that. This is okay, I agree with that, but there is a limitation. Very few fans are active and engaged. So there is a second, parasite. This guy explained, this is quote here, Dal Jong, you may be interested, dear friend. Transnational proximity, universal uniqueness. So I put the French translation because for me it's an unknown concept. Universal, he says, the global yaos identify with acceptable messages dealing with universal issues such as class divide, people struggle, and uncertainty. So this is a political argument coming from political economy, and he says the success of South Korean wave of K-pop is connected with reflecting the class divide, the people's struggle and uncertainty. You are free to decide. I won't impose you my point of view. And he says, okay, look, BTS expresses hardworking attitude, honesty, hopes in their songs. That's what he says. Yeah, well, why not? Maybe there is a very famous Indian singer or Indonesian singer who may express hope in their face, in their songs. And another Indonesian singer expressed desperation, and he made a success. Like Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was never a happy man, as far as I know. Or more, I don't know if you know Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. You know this? Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is an Irishman, totally desperate. You listen to the music, but he's a big success because he reflects an emotion which exists into our mind, or into our soul, or into our body. So, okay, why not? And then it has been said that parasites present low middle class against high income class. Okay, but that's a scenario. That's just a movie. So I'm not totally a fan of this explanation, but at least it gives us some anthropological approach.
Here, when he said BTS, actually it's very interesting. When he said BTS express hard-working attitude. Now BTS is the group of people, or BTS is a brand?
Yeah.
So what he's talking about there, the BTS in that sense, what does it points to?
But I don't know.
Because you see, in that sense, it could be the distinction between Marx and communism. The distinction between the members of BTS and the BTS. You see, and in that sense, what he's saying is a very market-oriented projection of...
Who is the author or the BTS?
Whoever is saying, who is he? Bong Joon-ho?
Yeah.
Yes, Bong Joon-ho.
Dong Yeonjin.
Yeah, Da Yeonjin. So whoever is speaking that, so there is a kind of, a very... a concept, you see, a concept which that BTS represent this. They have not experienced that, whether in real life BTS expresses this, but it's a narrative that BTS expresses it. And in that sense, I'm saying that is it BTS the member or the BTS as a group? Because the distinction between Marx represented class struggle. No, communism represents class struggle. You see.
Good. Hopefully, thank you for all your contribution. You frame the debate how to organize it. In a way, you try to say that this researcher imposed a Marxist framework on the BTS analysis.
Yeah.
Who agree with that? Who disagree with that? We can make a survey, even online. Who agree with the position of your colleagues? This Korean researcher imposed his Marxist framework on the analysis of the success of BTS. Or you disagree. Students are shy. You don't want to vote? We are in a democratic country, so we can vote.
I don't know, could be just the observation of what are the feelings of the people in...
No, but do you disagree with that? Don't go into another debate. If I don't finish, I can finish tomorrow. No, but it's a very interesting. This is I agree with him. He pointed right. He pointed right. Because I have a very different argument on BTS system. We can call it a system. And I'm not at the origin of this argument. I just pick it up from two different analyses. What is the other? What can we see on the other side of BTS? It's very important this point, because we are at the key point between two different elements. So here, Let's take the BTS as example. It's a good example, but Black Swan is the same. So Marxist-oriented equal values of, let's say, of class and struggle and working attitude. Okay? And your colleagues propose another argument. Let's say market-oriented, to make it short. You say, okay, liberal point of view. If we choose a liberal point of view on the BTS or on Black Swan or CI, no? No, you are not ready to. Okay. We are not in a marketing school. Huh? But take any, no.
If I understand, for example, the K-dramas, you know, the kind of the narrative were changing in time. So, you know, and it was more related with these values nowadays, hardworking attitude, and also, you know, class divide, people's struggle. They are showing that now.
Sure, but it may be the case in everywhere in the world for choosing.
Because of that, they are, you know, there is a success, but this is because it's a success, a worldwide success. So you are kind of in synchrony with some kind of.
Okay? Well, I give you the answer. High competition, 100% market-oriented. This is my point of view. What I've learned is that the K-pop band are 100% the product. They sign a contract. Each band player sign a contract. You will give some interviews. You will promote you for the brand. You will be the guest leader for 1 day. You will be the second leader for 1 month. You will be withdrawing from the scene to create scarcity for 1 year. You will be back on the scene for XXX. So they have a very, very detailed contract, and they are managed as a product. And I like you raise a point between two different ways to see this. Men see BTS and other bands as reflecting the value of the young ones. I propose to see also the same as reflecting the pressure on this band for high capitalism. Because what is Korea? A very competitive country. You know, unfortunately, they are one of the highest rate of young suicide among the young ones because of the competition. So if you don't succeed, the problem of Confucianism, if you don't respect the rule of the social order and the pressure of social order, you receive pressure. So we don't have to forget this too. So here is my answer. Dal Jong-in critical political economy framework. I propose sociology communication studies as because success because of universal elements to stories with ideal types, like an epic, like Steven's scenario. You know this Steven Spielberg, for me, is the best storyteller in the world for movies, because all this, if you look at the scenario of Steven Spielberg, it's always clear. It's always reachable by any culture into that room. And he has a genius for that. So that's why he's a famous and he is also a very reachable man. But he's not doing blockbusters. He's always doing stories which speak to everyone. A little bit like James Cameron also. James Cameron is quite good. And also for Christopher Nolan with Oppenheimer. The story, you can, whatever is your culture, whatever is your age, of course, if you are illiterate from the mountain, but whatever is, if you're urban, you can reach that culture. Exactly as an epic. You can grab elements according to your, and you understand the whole picture. I don't know if you have seen Oppenheimer. I saw it, I was totally amazed. And at the end of the, for the first time in my life, at the end of the show, at the end of the, how can you say, à la séance? Of the screening, the whole room was applauding. Incredible. And he has a, and because everyone is able to reach the story, exactly. So this is why when I choose that slide, I say I've made a connection with Epic. You read the story, you can reach it. Of course, you don't reach all elements because there is a long time element, but you can reach it. And what will you say? South Korea is a highly capitalistic country, competitive able to compete with other cultural products to gain markets. So what is Korea? Doing clearly the job, but also doing clearly money to competing with markets. So it's a success, and it's also a market. We never have to forget this. But it's a perfect case studies illustrating how can we deal soft power, how can we use on storytelling connected with our topic here, epics, to tell story to the rest of the world. Why remaining critical? Why remaining critical? So I have still 6 slides. Oh. Mais non. Sorry, there is a mistake in my computer. Oh, la. What shall we do? 10 minutes. Do you have any questions? Is that clear? You have a question?
Yes.
Ah, great.
So I find it interesting that before Korean wave, Japanese wave was more prevalent. Like in Indonesia, we have Harvest Moon, Tekken as a game. We even have Tamiya, like that car that can play by children. So even Korean boy band, the second and first generation, have a hard time to promote in Japan. They have a hard time. So what makes Korean wave to finally overtake Japanese wave? Is it because Japanese is not as competitive, or is there any other reason?
It's a really good question. You're totally right. 15 years ago, it was a time of Japan. And Japan manga, which are still popular, and Japan culture with martial arts and Japan food, and anime. You're right. Alors, there is 2 explanations. Of course, every wave can be it can be a wave. So after the hand, upside down. Then, at least in Europe, I don't know Indonesia, at least in Europe, Japan became mainstream. So it's totally, anime receive comments as similar as a Christopher Nolan or Justine Triet movie. So they receive, they are recognized. So they became mainstream. And I'm sure here it's the same. In Rajgi, I don't know, but in Delhi, I'm sure, or in Varanasi, you have a stand with sushi. Everywhere. In Buenos Aires too. Everywhere in the world, you have Japanese food, which is not Japanese food, is made by locals. They open a shop, they read, oh, Japanese food is trendy, so I can open a shop. So it became mainstream. But there is another reason. And I have made a small case studies on Japan, because it was called Cool Japan 15 years ago. There was a label, there was a promotion, but they didn't maintain their effort. They didn't maintain their effort, because I think of the government, and we have another problem which is visible, and it's very sad to mention that Japan is slowly going like this, because everything, because of democratic shift. 1/4 of the population in Japan is above 65. 1/4 of the population is about 65. And then maybe there is a lack of creativity. And of course, maybe there is a lack of schools. And maybe there is a lack, I'm sure about that, there is a lack of public engagement. I mean, the Cool Japan initiative was for 5 years. So my colleagues and I were studying, oh, Japan, the next case studies, you know. Then I made China, and then we are doing Korea. And then maybe next year we will do Indian or Indonesia, I don't know. It's like wave of studies too. But Japan is over. Anime is anime. Okay, it's competing in the wide world. Maki and sushi are next door, but it's only private opportunities. And the state is not doing the job. That's why they lose. And that's why China tried to do that. I will speak about it tomorrow. China tried to enter into that blank field. They didn't succeed. And Koreans arrived and they succeed. And maybe in 10 years it will be like this. And maybe it will be the next wave of Thailand or of Bangladesh if the state do something. But a country should have a big cultural industry to do that. A very organized cultural industry to be supported and to export goods. Because, frankly speaking, food is private initiative. Tomorrow, or you and I, we can open a stand here to sell sushi and maki. It's free, just to find a tourist. Now, after sushi and maki in France, the trendy stuff is Italian grocery. So the next wave is Italian grocery, and the next wave will be something else. So it's just private initiative. Does that give you the answer? Okay. So, allez, let's finish like this. How to evaluate results? It's a bit short, but there is, in the world, different institutions which are doing a survey to evaluate the soft power of the countries. They are mostly private ones or NGO charity ones, and they do the job. We can debate for hours about doing the job, but it's not the point. But here we got some results. Soft power 3.0, which is a leading one, but it's not running anymore after 2020, which is quite old. South Korea in 17, 58.4, 62.75, 63. Already in 2017, a slow increase in that ranking. We may discuss about the ranking, we keep the question for tomorrow, and at least we see some results. So we can evaluate soft power. So I have another slide about this. If you're interested, you can browse on Globe Soft Power Index. This is the second one. There is three different indexes in the world to evaluate soft power. We see the first one, and then we see the result. So this is the content of the soft power: business and trade, governance, international relations, cultural heritage, media and communication, education and society, people and values. So it reflects the whole content of a soft power. Why I'm attracted by? I'm attracted by the value of South Korea because they are gender equal. I am attracted by the business activity of India because they are well, efficient enough, blah, 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 blah. It's a cocktail. And here we've got the result of South Korea. With in that soft power index, I have some problem with that because China is number 5. And Russia is number 13. Now the soft power of Russia, even before the war against Ukraine, I have some problem. And South Korea is 15. And it was downsized at 12. So we see some contradiction or at least of methodological problems. It's not important. It's good to see that we can evaluate soft power and we can at least see that South Korea is among the top list. And we will not find, sorry for you, Bhutan. And we find here Indonesia, 45. So which is already a position, what does it mean? It means that your country is in the mindset of the whole citizen of the world. It means that. Of course, now I ask to my students, do you know Bhutan? And they all raise their hands. But 10 years ago, it wasn't the case. Because Bhutan was not known at all. And of course, everyone now in the world knows Indonesia. They can put 3 or 4 cliches. And of course, it was never been the case. India is always known by the citizen and always known by some representation. You know, if I'm going, I say, I'm going to India, everyone has some comment. I like, I dislike, or the food, and Buddhism or Hinduism, and everyone has some comment. It's more difficult with Indonesia. So, but at least it shows that the country are on the map. And the country, Argentina, is 42. I have problem with that one, but at least I take it. So to finish, are you a big fan of Korean culture? Then the next slide, the Korean culture, they try to engage ambassadors. This is the next step. So they try to engage citizens with guidelines to become ambassadors. So they try to engage a community. Okay?
This banner is for which country?
Everywhere. You can engage. Browse online, it's before 20 March to April. You have time.
There's a color theme, and I thought it's for some particular country.
No, it's, you can do that for you. If you're fine, you can do that. Conditions apply. Conclusion. It's a worldwide success. We've seen it. It's a mix of private-public partnerships. It's a dedicated government and MFI aligned with clear objectives. It's a competitive society, as you pointed out, and it's a desire-centered conclusion. It could be framed into an epic, and my conclusion is also a little bit critical. A desire-centered marketing approach to create desire. Teaser, control of the image, relationship with the audience, scarcity and high price. Look at that. There is a TXT concert in Belgium. Have you seen the price? I went on the website to see the prices. 275 euros. It's a flight ticket to go to somewhere. 24,000 INR. You've got, and also you've got marketing in the hall. You've got the dancing hall, which is more expensive than the different, everything, like the opera. Everything in the room is marketed to different prices. Can you imagine to pay 24,000 INR to see a band for 2 hours? It's a huge amount of money. Of course, the price will be different. It's for Europe. But the price may be different here, adapting to the current. Huh?
Even in India, it's similar. Many of my friends went to some Korean concert and all these things.
That's a marketing desired approach with to create a, I want it because it's rare, because it's expensive, so I feel privileged if I can offer it to me. Well, it's the conclusion of the first day. Thank you for your comments. I invite the rest of your room to challenge your colleague with a very interesting insights. And tomorrow we will speak about Buddhism to frame a country. So maybe Buddhism 1, 2, May 3, 4, 5. We have 6 Buddhists by origin. At least we will speak about that. As a epic, Buddhism as an epic to frame a country.